the topic here is one of my instructive practice games, unrated, with maretate. We have been playing a lot of games in this fashion with each other, and some of the lessons to learn here include the crab formation, which you will see, also decision making regarding the defense with white, and finally, salvation. I open with d5. My main move is e5, but I wanted to give maretate a variety of positions to practice against. He plays e6. That's absolutely appropriate because after d5, I'm actually threatening to play e5. And e6 is the most logical way of meeting this threat. So now if I play e5, it would be pretty bad because black has three ways of grabbing a big advantage. The first way is to play d6. This is my favorite way. The second way is to take on d5, and the third way is to take on f5. So for example, after d6, white has a lot of problems because first off, there are three threats. There's a threat of taking twice on f5, there's a threat of taking twice on c5, and then there's a threat of taking on d5. So the best way for white to cut all these threats is to play c takes d6 one time, and then to follow up with e4. But the problem here for white is that he gives up control of the b6 square where he can put his knight. Therefore, black has very good chances of winning after playing a5 in this position. White has no realistic way of stopping black from putting the knight on b6. Usually when black can play a5 and knight b6, it's winning most of the time for black himself, because he will manage to put a rook on specifically the fourth rank, after which he can put the queen from behind and force a breakthrough on the a3 pawn. It's important to clarify that the rook must be capable of entering the fourth or the third rank in order to force a breakthrough with a rook and a queen. So, and the reason for that is because if white has a pawn on a4 himself, then a breakthrough would not reach the access to the back rank. It needs to be where black is capable of safely putting the rook on a4. That way, he will be taking an a3 pawn and breaking open this diagonal, right? So, white has a lot of problems if he plays e5. And if he wants to play e5, he better prepare it with d4. That's what I did. I'm intending e5 next move. And he plays a peculiar move, which is h5. So h5 is anti-positional because it just allows me to grab the center with e5. And now I think I just have a very good position here. The main move for black is to take. He can take, or he can play a5 first and then take, most likely to transpose. But take, a5, e4, d6, e5. This is one of the biggest main lines. This is like a line which has existed forever. Main move here for white is b6, and it's just a huge topic. But long story short, black is objectively winning, probably, and however, it's a very reliable system for white nonetheless, because black cannot really force a breakthrough for a long time. He will have to hold and stall and wait for white to give up some weak squares. So, it's pretty much the best way for black to play. But he plays h5. and then he takes. It's very interesting, a very concrete approach. Having played h5 and having taken on g4 are both anti-positional decisions in this circumstance. However, he's borrowing an idea which exists in an opening variation after specifically move to f takes e6. It's a line that goes like f takes, e takes, d takes, f5, h5, f4, for example. Knight e7 would be bad, so actually he should take first. Knight e7 looks logical, but the problem for black here is that white would then play g6 after taking on f5. White would take, g takes, take, and black's problem is that the h file is closed. Therefore, knight e7 is kind of like probably a mistake for black here. Therefore, he needs to take first, probably, and then follow up with knight e7, after which the h file is guaranteed to be open, and white has a lot of problems defending the king side. So he borrows that idea with black, applies it in this game, take, and knight e7, and I have a interesting decision I can make with f6. If I play f6, then it allows knight g6 and creation of a fourth rank rook, which previously I had been saying is really good for black. But in this particular case, white is able to form a position called the crab. And if white has a crab, then actually the creation of a rook on the fourth rank is not so simple, whether it wins for black or not, because the crab pawns will create a strong barrier that basically cuts black's oxygen, makes him unable to coordinate his pieces to sacrifice on the wing. So I played f6 right away. It's also possible to wait first with e4 and then play f6 at the right moment. However, I think playing f6 straight away is also something that has nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. e4, take. I take with the e pawn. It's important not to take with the g pawn, because if I take with the g pawn, then he can safely put the bishop on h6, allowing him to break through with less material sacrifice. And I don't mean bishop h6 now, I mean bishop h6 in the future. So it's very important to control these two squares. d6, c6, here we go. Now we create the crab formation. The point is that if white wants to break through on the king side, he needs the knight to sacrifice on f6 with. However, now that the pawn is on c6, it prevents black from putting knight on d7. So the point of the crab formation for white is that you want to play it before black has his knight on d7. That's pretty important. Actually, there is a line that stems out of move 1 e5 where this same situation happens. So it starts out e5, d6, e4, take, let's say f takes, h5, d5, e6, f4, or d4, either way, knight e7, and now radical move, f6. Normally, f6 should just lose straight away because of the knight g6 and then breaking open the king side, putting the rook on fourth rank. However, in this particular instance, white has one very strong move, which is c6, creating the same crab formation. And yeah, black's problem here is that he cannot put the knight on d7 and actually use it because white will just take it. if white does not play c5 and plays instead d4, then maybe white can lose. Maybe white is losing because just take on g4, take on h4, and then after something like g3, rook h3, I don't know. Maybe I still have the opportunity of playing c6, although in this case he would take on g4. Let's just say I spend the time to protect the g4 pawn with f3. In this case, black can now play knight d7, and now it's too late for white to play c6 because now black can just simply take on f6, and then after all the trades on f6 occur, he successfully achieves a breakthrough. So yeah, you do want to play c6 before black gets an opportunity to put his knight on d7. You know, he doesn't have to take right away on g4. Maybe he can try to prepare it first by playing knight d7 and sacrificing. So anyway, that's just a line that I play for white where a crab formation occurs, just to give you extra context. So we get this position, right? He has a rook on the 4th rank. He plays the knight to d7, threatening to take on f6 and put the queen on behind. Sorry, queen from behind. Okay, so I take the knight, and he wisely takes with the queen. I kind of did not consider this decision for black, but it's very crafty because what he wants to do now that the d8 square is cleared is he actually wants to put the king on d8 and the queen on e8 and bring the queen from behind. So I thought that was kind of a smart recapture. I guess that he can also recapture with the king and do kind of the same thing, right? But yeah, both of these captures would be better than the capture with the bishop. c5, I just want to put pawn on c6, and that will form the basis of my counterattack. Take, take, king d8, b4. Maybe I should just play c6 right away, although it doesn't make too much of a difference. It's most likely to transpose. Maybe such move like d3 is kind of a waste of time. And now we get a critical moment. Do I take the bishop now, or do I ignore it? I think I made the wrong decision. I ignored it. I think it would have been better to take it, because what happened in the game is that he actually retreated the bishop, kept his material, and then I spent like 5 moves organizing an attack on the king's side. 5 moves just to eliminate his bishop when I could have eliminated his bishop in 1 move. So I definitely should have taken, even though it's very weakening for white. So take, and just accept that he gets a breakthrough. Just accept it, right? Kind of I had expected him to take on g5, actually. But yeah, bishop f8 was a good decision by him. Another thing to point out here is that if I refuse to take right now and play c4 and then try to take now that the queen is on h8, he actually has queen takes f6, and now he will pick up 2 pawns instead of pick up 1 pawn. So if I want to take the bishop, I should take it now. I should not wait. Otherwise, the queen will attack the f6 configuration. Very important pawn here. So I should take right away. And the point is that now I defend the f6 pawn just in time. I think this position greatly favors white. I will just simply attack the queen side very quickly. Something like this, and I don't know, maybe Sometimes I can consider e4 with the idea of f5 and e6. I think that looks very threatening, right? Yeah, I like this for white, even though my back is completely exposed. So if I just play that way for white, then I should be standing very well. Instead, I waste all this time to orchestrate an attack on the bishop, and then I'm left with one big island that is really exposed. Objectively, I am losing here, obviously. I play e4, maybe I should actually consider d6, because after e4, it exposes this d4 pawn, and it's impossible to guard both the d3 and the d4 pawns. Whereas if I leave the pawn on e3 and play d6 and take, then it takes him a longer time to target these two pawns because the d4 pawn is now defended. I don't know. I mean, just food for thought. I should lose this. Yeah, b6, because I saw that I can just follow up with c7. He can win material if he takes with the c takes b6. He took instead with a takes b6, missing the opportunity to win material because I have this intermezzo. And I take, and he wisely puts a king on b8. That's the correct decision. I think it would be inferior to put the king on d8 because kings belong on the edge where they cannot be checkmated. If a king is like in front, in the middle, cut middle of a pawn avalanche, then he's at big risk of getting checkmated. Whereas on the edge, he has zero risk of getting checkmated without white creating a queen. So, yeah, e6, if he just simply takes on e6 with the bishop, then I am dead lost. I would have to play d6 or something, in which case I might as well play d6 right now and allow him to take. Maybe that's my best way. He does play rook a6, I play e7, kind of tying him down. So I think I have some fight again, although maybe not necessarily because now I feel dead lost. Maybe I should play b5 here, right? Yeah, maybe if I play b5 here, then I have really good chances of winning because I can just... I'm threatening to play c7 and c6 and d7. It's just nasty. I should probably not take the bishop because it just gives him more squares. But, yeah, I should lose this, I guess. But I fight really hard. I mean, I look for everything, I calculate everything, and I came to the conclusion under this time pressure that this way of playing was the best way for white. And now I have a win here. He runs out of time or something, but he has a problem, which is that I'm going to play a7, and if he takes, then I don't even have to fork him. I can just play e8 queen. And if he monitors a pawn, then I have a7, of course. And if he brings a king to d6, then I have... What do I have? a7. Yeah, obviously. So he messed up really quickly somewhere. Maybe he needs to play... Oh, gee, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he has a defense somewhere. First off, maybe king b6. And if e6, king c7, a5. Okay, how about king a7 so that white cannot advance a5 without losing this pawn. So king a7, b4, queen e7, a5, take a6, and I think he's in control after queen d6 maybe, protecting the back rank. Yeah, I think black is in control in this position, right? If I play b6, then king takes b6 is good enough. So is this. So my only other option is a4, but he can just simply... What can he do? Good question, because I am threatening a5, b6, right? Maybe it's not a threat because I just simply take on a6, right? But then he can follow up with b5. Okay, what's a move for black here? Maybe... Okay, queen c7. Okay, how about queen c7? a5, queen d6, b6, king takes a6, b5, and yeah, maybe black is losing, or maybe it's a draw, who knows, right? But white is not worse, because I have to take one of these two pawns, let's say this pawn, and then c7 happens, and there's no way to stop the promotion. Yeah, this looks like a draw, right? I mean, I don't know, maybe... Yeah, it looks drawish, I guess, because all I have to do is trade off this pawn. Yeah. Or maybe I should promote this way, but then I can take the pawn anyway and trade off. So, yeah, it's a draw. Better than a loss for black. But much earlier, I definitely think black had me somewhere. Yeah, that bishop takes e6 would have made his life so much easier. Just right here, bishop takes e6. That's definitely the easiest way to play this position, because I don't have much punch after d6. There's not too much to worry about, I don't think. He can just play rook a6 maybe, right? And then consider taking on b6. And then he will be left with a bishop, which grabbed a pawn for free. So... all in all, a very dynamic game. Main lesson for me personally, I think, is... I don't know. Just to really appreciate the importance of grabbing material when you know that black is going to make a breakthrough anyway, right? Something like this, and white should just be much better. Secondly, towards the end of the game, what was that move I missed? It was a very strong move. B5. For whatever reason, I did not play b5, but I should have played b5 because it keeps the fire alive. It also threatens something like take on b7 so that I can take on a6. I don't know. I mean, he cannot even take here because he can't take here. So, just a very good position for white. I don't know what the takeaway is. I guess just keeping the fire alive is always a good approach for white. And then finally, if we go back to the opening, so black played an anti-positional and concrete approach with taking on h takes g4 and e takes f5, and then kind of inducing me to play this double-edged f6 move. So yeah, put the pawn on c6 before black has a chance to put the knight on d7 with a threat, right? That's about it. I hope this was useful, and take care.